Hey everyone, my name is Rick Gualtieri, and I've been putting up some sneak previews on this channel for upcoming books, but I had a fun time doing those. So what I wanted to do was start also just including some chapter readings from some of my other books that are already out there. If you're not familiar with my works, also to kind of give you a feel for what I do. Also, maybe give you a feel, if you've only read some of my stuff and you're like borderline on some of the rest, maybe give you a taste of what it's like. Just that. These, unlike the sneak previews, I can actually offer links to. So what I'll be doing is putting in the comments links to the Amazon and audiobook if applicable. I don't read the audiobooks, just for the record. I'm just doing these chapter readings. Today, I'm going to do a reading from a chapter from Midnite's Daughter. Midnite's Daughter is, I guess, it's my homage to anime. I like watching anime. I've been watching it for years, and it was kind of like I wanted to step into that world and kind of create kind of larger than life characters. Demons. Magic, all that stuff running around. Building upon just the some of the fascinating mythology from Japan and China. So this is kind of my love letter homage to that. Midnite's Daughter is I'd say it's probably one of my few young adult friendly books. It's written. There's a lot of action in it. There's some cursing, definitely some violence, but it's definitely not at the level of some of my other stuff. So I would probably consider this kind of teen friendly, which is rare for me. Those of you who've seen the cover, which should be in the preview of this video, you'll notice it says R. Gualtieri instead of Rick Gualtieri. That's just a little designation I use to designate the difference between my books that have a comedic focus versus ones that maybe are less comedic. Rick Gualtieri, I've been putting on my Toma Bill books, my Hybrid of High Moon series, things that are kind of meant to be, I guess, greater emphasis on the laughs and such. Whereas this actually is pretty lighthearted, honestly. It probably could go either way, but because it has like I said, that anime focus to it, I decided to put this under R. Gualtieri. This chapter takes place in the first third of the book, relatively early. The main character, Kisaki, has just escaped from the Celestial Palace where she's lived for the last 75 years of her life. She is what you would call a hanyo, a half-demon. And she's decided that she wants to get to Earth, to see what's going on, live her life a little. But, of course, there's some people hot on her tail. Just to let you know, the audiobook for this is narrated by Tess Irondale, and just for record, she does a hell of a lot better at it than I do. This is just me sputtering through it, but she's a real pro. So I highly recommend, if you're into audiobooks, check this one out. Links will be in the comments. So, Midnite's Daughter, the first of what I'm hoping to be a trilogy eventually, but this definitely stands by itself as not only kind of a coming of age story, but also I guess an introduction. And there's a bit of a superhero twist to it because, I mean, let's be honest, what fantasy story would be complete without magic swords, monsters, and as you'll see, talking tigers. Tomiko screamed and backed up several steps before falling down into the sand again. Such bothersome creatures, Shitoro commented before turning to face Kisaki again. You are in a great deal of trouble, young mistress. Kisaki sighed dejectedly. She'd known this would eventually happen, had been anticipating it ever since she'd stepped foot from her mother's chambers. Yet, following the last few wonderful days, she'd begun to entertain the fantasy that perhaps she'd be allowed to stay with Tomiko. She now saw what a fool she was to think that. Do not ignore me, young lady. I wasn't ignoring you, Kisaki replied. Don't take that tone with me. A few days on Earth and the entire concept of respect is lost upon you. I haven't lost my... Hands grabbed Kisaki beneath her shoulders and began dragging her away. When she looked up, she saw it was Tomiko. Her friend's eyes were as wide as the full moon. Finally, after about 10 feet, she stopped and then dropped to her knees in front of Kisaki, continually glancing back over her shoulder to where Shitoro sat looking quite annoyed. "How are you not freaked out by the fact that a cat is talking to us?" "I will have you know, human," Shitoro said with a sniff, "I am a tiger. I hunted prey before your kind had even discovered fire, which, I might add, was quite by accident." "Tiger?" Tomiko cried, turning and facing him. "I hate to break it to you, but tigers are big and now I'm talking to a cat. I don't know what was in that taco rice, but we are never going there again. Tigers also have claws, which I will be happy to show you if—" "That's enough, Shitoro." Kisaki stood up and brushed herself off. "Even you have to admit, you're somewhat small for a tiger." "Small in stature, but large in spirit, as your mother would say. That is, if you ever stopped disrespecting her long enough to listen." "Shitoro?" Tomiko asked. "This is Shitoro?" "Yes," Kisaki said carefully, not entirely sure why her friend was reacting this way. Certainly Shitoro was a bit on the diminutive side, but nothing that should have alarmed her to such a degree. "I thought you said Shitoro was your stepdad." "I said he was my guardian, which he is." "Your guardian is a cat?" "Tiger!" Shitoro snarled. Tomiko spun toward him again. "I've seen tigers in the zoo. They didn't talk." "Of course not," Shitoro replied. "Regular tigers are dumb animals, like present company, I might add. I am a tiger demon." "Demons aren't real." "How your species managed to survive the last ice age is beyond me." "Enough," Kisaki said, stepping between the two. "Shitoro, can you please assume your regular form?" "I am in disguise as per your mother's orders. Do you know what happens to yokai who disobey one such as she?" "There's no one else here. It's just us." "Fine," Shitoro replied. "If it will cease this human's prattling, so be it." His yellow eyes began to glow, and a moment later so too did the rest of him. There came a flash of light, and then Shitoro adopted the bipedal form he most typically took into Celestial Palace. "Better?" "Not really," Tomiko replied, dumbfounded. She turned to Kisaki. "Now he's a 2-foot-tall talking cat, standing on his hind legs and wearing a kimono." "How many times do I have to say it? I am a tiger." "Should I get a ball of yarn so we can find out for sure?" "Yarn? I don't understand." "What? How did you find me?" Kisaki asked, tired of their bickering. She was relatively certain that if she tried, she would be able to get up in the morning, go to work, and then come back to find these two still arguing. "Huh?" both of them asked. "How did you find me, Shitoro?" Kisaki repeated. "Find you? I have been searching this accursed island for 2 days now. You have no idea the indignities I have had to endure. Children throwing rocks at me, mongrels chasing me. At one point, a fat human female grabbed hold of me while I was unawares and tried to put a collar around my neck." "Seen many tigers wearing collars?" Tomiko asked. "Like I said, cat." Before Shitoro could start in again with her friend, Kisaki asked, "But how did you even know to look here on this island?" "Perhaps, if you had paid better attention to your studies, that would be self-evident," he chided. "You used your mother's crystal to come here. I don't know how you knew to do so, but you were a foolish child if you thought she couldn't trace her own power." "My mother's crystal? In the sending chamber?" Kisaki remembered what had happened, how she'd been standing in the middle of that room, thinking of Earth, then suddenly found herself on the beach. "The black crystal?" "Of course, as if you did not know." "What's he talking about?" Tomiko asked. "I am not entirely certain myself." Shitoro walked up to them, ignoring how Tomiko flinched away, then poked a clawed finger at Kisaki. "A likely story. I will warn you, child, that your lies will not get you out of this. Your mother will most likely order you chained to your study desk from here on out." "Hey," Tomiko cried. "You can't do that. It's illegal." "You would presume to tell the great Lady Midnite what she can and cannot do?" "Lady Midnite?" Tomiko turned to Kisaki. "Your mom, she's not—" She inclined her head toward Shitoro. "Like him?" "Lady Midnite is like nothing your feeble human mind could comprehend," Shitoro said, "and be thankful for that. Should you ever find yourself standing before her divine grace, you would do well to cut that tongue from your mouth before letting it flap incessantly." "She sent you, didn't she?" Kisaki asked. The little demon rounded on her. "Of course she sent me, and I was glad to heed her command. Unlike some, I am both loyal and respectful to my mistress, even willing to break our laws at her command, at great personal risk to myself, I might add." "What laws?" Tomiko asked. "Such as the one forbidding passage to Earth?" There's a law forbidding passage? Kisaki asked. Yes, there is. How come I never heard you talk of it? Because you were not meant to. You were never meant to venture forth from your chambers. As such, there was no need for you to know of such matters. Tomiko stepped in front of Kisaki, having seemingly gotten over her shock, and stared down at the tiger yokai. Well, I hope there's a law against anyone leaving Earth, because she's not going back. What? You heard me, cat. You won't find that so funny once I turn you into a mouse. Kisaki slapped a hand against her forehead. These two couldn't seem to help themselves. Even so, she found her heart warm that Tomiko, a mere human, would stand up to a yokai for her. Despite her first instinct to do as she was told, she began to realize she didn't want to give up her friend. And if Tomiko was that fierce of a friend, then perhaps she was worth fighting for. What if I don't wish to leave? Preposterous, Shitoro cried. You truly have been ruined by this savage place. Over 60 years of routine and discipline gone in the space of a few days. The great daimyo should have put their edict in place for that reason alone. 60 years? Tomiko turned to Kisaki. So you were telling the truth? Yes. Whoa, you're like old enough to be my grandmother. Kisaki chuckled, not entirely certain what a grandmother was. Perhaps. I want to drink from whatever fountain of youth you have up there. Do not be foolish, human, Shitoro said. My name is Tomiko. Oh, so you do not like it when the sandal is upon the other foot. Nevertheless, it is impossible. Your feeble human mind simply couldn't handle the glorious wonders of the celestial palace. And even if you could, I dare say some of my less tolerant cousins would be more than happy to enjoy making a meal out of you. I ask again, Kisaki said, interrupting the bickering, what if I do not wish to leave? That is out of the question. Besides, why would you even want to stay in this barbaric land? The stench alone is enough to singe my whiskers. You're going to be smelling like wet cat in about 3 seconds, Tomiko warned. As I said, barbaric. I haven't found it to be that way, Kisaki said. I've actually enjoyed staying here at the resort, working for Yoshida-san. Working? Yes, I have been performing odd jobs and receiving payment for it. You, a daughter of the mighty Midnite, have been serving a human? What have they done to you? Is this Yoshida a wizard? Has he bewitched your mind? Kisaki laughed. Of course not. He's Tomiko's father. She looked toward her friend questioningly. Tomiko gave her a small nod of approval, so she turned back, intent on continuing her argument. But then she hesitated as a thought suddenly popped into her mind. Shitoro. Yes, Lady Kisaki? Have you come to your senses yet? May I ask you a question? Very well. Are you my father? All right, there you have it. A chapter from Midnite's Daughter, as you can probably tell from the end. Kisaki's not quite sure. Well, she knows what her mother is, but the whole concept of a father is kind of new to her, and that's kind of plays into the plot of the story. As I said, she kind of escapes to Earth to learn a bit about herself and about her ancestry, and along the way gets into a lot of trouble. That's kind of like, you know, a cute scene between three of the main characters. Kisaki, Tomiko, and Shitoro. Later on, gets a little less cute as, things show up and decide that, rather than talk to Kisaki, they'd rather kill Kisaki. So take that as you will. Definitely in the urban fantasy vein, but as I said, kind of an anime homage, if you will. If you enjoyed that, please check out the comments for the links to the ebook on Amazon and the audiobook on Audible. And I hope to do more of these again in the future. Once again, my name is Rick Gualtieri, and I will talk to you again soon.